Hello, hello, hello. I had a sudden change in schedule, but this is the Adroit Living session of the Erudition Network. Here, I like to take some time to talk about some sensitive subjects to help improve mental health right where you are in a holistic manner. So, we talk about a lot of different things that affect you mentally, physically, emotionally, just holistically, the entire you. Um, I want to first give some time for people to come on. I know I'm a little late. I had a sudden change of schedule, like I said, and it was just a happy coincidence that I was able to get on. Okay. But today is just a few days away from my birthday. It's April 28th, and it's like, whew, it's all the rushing and doing all the things that I got to do. And it's like, oh my God, wait a minute. Okay, we got to change the schedule, and then we go run around and take care of that and this, and it was just a mess. Okay, it's been a really a whole lot of stuff going on towards the end of this month. It's always like that right before Mother's Day, right? Then it's my birthday time too, so it's like, man, it's just a lot of things compiled together. So if you are a viewer that we've had for a while, we appreciate your viewership and your loyalty. And we love the fact that you guys keep commenting and sharing and liking and even loving. We love that one. Um, but this is an interactive program. So make sure that you can, comment, say something. Come on in here and say something. What you say, Eddie? Yeah, I got on. So we're gonna try to do this thing and hammer it out. It's like when you are on a road and doing a whole lot to help people and reaching people. It's like, man, they don't want you to reach you. It's like keep it busy, keep it busy. But I'm not too busy, thankfully. So again, remember to comment. Hey, Sean Anthony, appreciate you for coming. And we really want to say thank you for all the new subscribers. We appreciate you guys. And tell us what you want to hear, what you want to see more about. And here I like to do fact-based. So anything that I'm saying has a peer-reviewed study to support it, so you will understand this is not just my opinion. And there's many books that I can reference and show you. This is not just opinion. This is not my perspective, but I do like to contribute perspectives, diverse perspectives. So make your comments, say something, say something. Anyway, so we're going to get right on into this topic. Y'all got to remember, I am always nervous because I don't really do the lights, camera, action thing. I'm mostly behind the camera or, things like that. And there was this doctor, he was like, well, what are you going to do? It was another PhD. And he was like, well, what are you going to do when it's time for you to come from out the background? I'm going to do what I've always been doing. I just won't do it behind closed doors and behind curtains and having someone else to be in the forefront. I'll just be the one in the forefront. I'll just keep doing the same thing. Hey, Daddy Lee and Mama Charlotte. I know. I appreciate you. Make sure you comment if you saw previous episodes and you want to comment about those, or have questions about those. Say something. If you want to hear more about something that I've already stated, say something. I know it was a mouthful the last episode, and there was a lot of hot topics and a lot of things that I could have broke down a bit more. But I'm trying to, give the benefit of the doubt that people are like, no, I got it. I understood. You know what I'm saying? So comment, like, and share. And if you love it, click loving it. Okay. So today we're going to learn more about how we're signaling mental health so we can understand it's not about you identifying it as a professional more so than you recognizing and you being aware something's not right, something's going on, what's wrong, and how can we see it before it gets really out of hand. A lot of times, I'm going to show you a screen and you can pause it right there and read what's on there, because now I want to be able to present more stuff to you so you can read on your own if you want to, outside of just listening and watching the podcast. So a lot of times in the workforce, we've seen And why do I talk about the workforce? Because that's where a lot of these changes take place. So that's because that's money. Money moves things, okay? So a lot of times in the workforce, we're seeing that people were thinking um, signaling was just a matter of motions that was happening that signals only one way. And it was like, well, that has nothing to do with me. It's not relevant to anything outside of that. It's just, business. That's just business. We don't really care about that. That's not true. Because in business, that's what moves, that's what monetarily motivates people to act. It's a lot of things that's going on that's like, oh, okay, this is why I care. Yes, that's why you care. So the signaling theory was like, oh, okay, well, I'm going to show you what I'm going to do as an organization. I'm going to show you how I'm going to move as an organization. And you, as whoever you are, whoever that is, we don't really care as long as you're supporting us. You're just going to take it because I'm the directions is only coming one way. I'm telling you what I'm going to do and you're going to love it and like it, and if you don't, patronize somebody else. And that's what we were seeing, a lot of breaks with mental health, because it was like these are reputable brands that's like too big to fail organizations, but they're failing. And we're just now getting into the age and the stability in our life where we can start to invest in these organizations and these brands as an investor. And we're like, well, I'm trying to be positive about this investment and invest, but they're telling me they're not going to take any direction from me and they're going in the wrong direction. How do I help to control my investment? Because I want to invest. And they're like, well, you can't. You just gotta roll with it um until it just levels back out and balances out. But a lot of times your investment, you don't have the kind of money that you can play around with, that the stock will remain there in order to play the market and wait the market out, and you lose big, and now you're mentally disturbed about what transpired. You are upset about your experience because you're like, man, I tried it, it's nothing but a scam and I don't see how it works. And then there's that mental disconnect because your experience did not live up to the expectation, and you're old enough now to be able to invest. And you're like, why didn't this work? I don't understand why this didn't work. Well, there's a signaling to the market, and we need to be more upfront and repetitive and telling the markets this is not working for me. And how do you do that? We need to we need to explain it a little bit. See, the receiver of the signal, they once thought that the receiver is everybody except for the investor, everyone except for the people who's running the stock market, everybody who's the organization. But it's not. They are the recipient of the wealth. And we're saying, no, you have it twisted and you messing with our mental health because we don't understand your logic. How do you feel like you could just do whatever you want and then just move on to another high roller who has money that they can play with like that? I have seen studies where is showing that a lot of these big companies, like the products that you need all the time, like sanitary products, there was something that was going on with a study with that. I don't know if I can mention their name, um, but it was studies that use sanitary napkins, and they were like, well, we have this problem that I just told you, that we're like not realizing our investment potential. So what they did was they had their set group of investors. Then they brought in some new blood and brought some investors in who now want to participate and say, oh yeah, we'll invest into it. And they were little money. And that little money, they tried to motivate them to feel like, oh, this little money that we chipping in as an investor, now that we can invest, we got a couple of thousand, maybe 10,000, and 10,000 is only going to buy you a little bit of stock. It's not going to be enough to really make changes in your life, but that's what they call little money. Now, if you have a couple of $100,000, then you can buy a couple of shares of stocks. But what they did was, because the little money coming in, that fresh blood, that fresh meat, it was like, well, we'll make them feel good about themselves and lower the stocks. It's not just that one company, but I'm using that company as an example because that is a too big to fail organization. Because everybody needs sanitary napkins, toilet paper, etc. That's what I mean by sanitary napkins, and women's products. So they was like, well, we can play around with it a little bit because people are still going to purchase these items. It's never not going to be a need for these items. So we're going to every now and again rotate in some new people, so and make them feel like we lowered our stock prices a little bit so they can afford it. So they'll look $5,000 to get them 2 shares, or $10,000 to get them about 4 or 5 shares. The problem was the organization started to reach the end of their fiscal year, and they were like, well, here's the finances of the organization, and we have to show that we have a profit and we have these gains. And in order to do that, we need to have people who are getting Christmas bonuses. We need our investors to get some kickbacks and money. So what they did was they started like a fire sale, and they got rid of the new people who were the investors, that like you and me, people who are just now starting to say, okay, well, I'm retired. I'm starting a business for myself. I'm entering a new phase of my life in the career stage. So I'm going to start using some of this money to invest in and do some different things in and diversify, because you have to diversify in order to make sure your money isn't going, you know, down all the eggs in one basket. So you have all these things going on, and you're trusting the people who are telling you, well, you're gonna invest this way and it's gonna go up and down, but ride it out and don't get scared and whatever. But then when they cut you loose and say, well, you paid this much, you paid $10,000 for the stocks, and the stocks currently are selling for less than what's expected, but you got to sell because, well, they can make you sell, or they can tell you whatever, they can lower the prices of it, and then it's not worth as much. That makes you rush and get rid of the stocks and take less money than what you expected. Even if you're getting back all the money that you invested into it, but you're getting less than what you expected to get out of it. It's like, oh well, because they have a objective, and the objective is to keep their baseline and to return back to their baseline, and to keep that baseline happy. So what they do is they get rid of the new people who are investing, and they're saying, well, look, this is a sign, and then they use that money to give Christmas bonuses, give kickbacks to loyal investors who've been there for a long time. And they say, this is a signal that your investment is doing well. So keep on investing and keep on giving us enough money to keep on playing this game. Meanwhile, there is still a signal that's going on to those people with smaller pockets. And those people with smaller pockets outnumber the people with bigger pockets. And that reciprocal signal that you don't care about my life and I should only care about your life, that's the signal that's messing with people's mental health. And that's why we're seeing so many problems with mental health, because people don't realize signals are not just one way. It's reciprocal. It's a give and take. It's a, you say something and I'm gonna show you I heard you, and then I'm gonna say what I'm gonna say, and you have to be receptive to what that information is. But that's not happening because it's only a one way, because somebody developed this idea that signaling is one way, and it's like, wait a minute, that's not the way this works. It's not just one brain on the island. That's not the way this is going to work. It's not that people don't understand already that these signals are backdated from the idea of sending out signals as waves. sound waves, and they understand that when you send out a sound, that sound is going somewhere, and it's going to eventually come back. It's going to return to the sender. That was a lost concept when people started to build these organizations and develop these theories about signaling to the market and how the market works. And that's why a lot of investors have been in these too big to fail organizations still scratching their head like, how are we failing? You're failing because it is not a one-way signal. There's never been a time where a signal was one way. Even when you go, and it's like a lot of people don't read the books, and they're not aware of these ideas and understandings. They just go along with what somebody else said. And that's why you see so many people that say, well, this person looks like me, so I'm gonna believe what they say. This person is telling me the right thing. I trust that that's what they're doing because they look like me. We think alike. We move in the same circles. We have the same circle of friends. But it might be that they just don't understand, and they're following what someone else told them to say and told them to do because it's their job. And they have to listen to whomever it is that's telling them. So I'm not saying that they're intentionally misdirecting you or misleading you, misguiding you. I'm not saying that. But I'm saying there is a great deal of disinformation. And that disinformation is being seen in the studies, but in the observations that are being reported, it's 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 catered to whomever it is that's paying them to say to conduct the studies. That's why you have global reviews of studies, because in the global reviews of studies, you're seeing a lot of information, and you're seeing what all of these studies did in order to have their conclusion, and you're seeing what the outcome of those conclusions are. That's why it was extremely vital in my line of what I contributed to academia and the market, was to show the global overview and what's happening, why it happened that way, and what that's causing. It's causing mental health crisis around the world. How is it happening? Because we're stuck on these ideas that don't work. We're stuck on go, go, go for things that we've been doing for so long. And it's like, well, why are we still doing those things? It's these signals that happen primarily in brick and mortar schools and now other methods of schooling that geared you in that way to condition your thought process, to condition even your critical thinking skills, and push a narrative to help you to be motivated to go along with these ideas because you want to belong, because you want to advance in your career, because you want to make more money, because you want to be more popular, because you want to get more likes. And all of these reasons are just glitter and sparkle, and it doesn't have the longevity to maintain the kind of mental health that you need to sustain yourself. And that disconnect is a part of the cognitive dissonance, because you thinking that you're supposed to behave in this way, but what's happening is when you do it, something goes wrong. The expectation is not there. And because the expectation is not there, you have this disconnect between your mental thinking and your actual acts and actions. And it's like, oh, well, I don't know how I got here. And then by the time you're looking at it, you're like, well, now it's like, um, I'm stuck having this problem that I'm not really sure why I'm having it. And I can't pinpoint how to, where it's coming from, what's wrong, and what's happening in order for me to realize that I'm actually having this problem at a level that I need to address it professionally, or I can address it on my own, or maybe you need to do a little bit of both. And then it just starts to snowball from there, because you're still kind of on the fence, like, I don't think this is really happening, and I don't know why it's happening. And you have to remember, it's because the conditioned thinking that was developed. A lot of these trains of thought are derived from things that they a lot of the people would never actually admit, but it's derived from ancient books like the Bible, where it says, train a child in the way it should go, so when it's older it will not depart from those ways. That's why it was significant to train children in brick and mortar schools, in the schooling atmosphere. That's why it was important for the stronghold to take place at a time where you're most impressionable and learning, so it can be deeply ingrained into your daily vernacular, your daily behavior, and the way you move then now becomes the norm as you continue to move in that way. But the problem that no one really anticipated was the mental health problem, because you're struggling mentally with this shouldn't be like this, but you're doing it anyway, and you're like, man, this isn't right. And then someone says, well, it's not right, but it's not happening to you, so don't worry about it. And then when it finally is happening to you, you're like, wait a minute, this can't be happening. Why is this happening? Well, because you let it go on, because you trusted someone telling you that it wasn't really happening, and give you misguided logic as to why it wasn't a reality, when in fact you knew it was a reality, and it was bugging you that it was a reality, but the person that you trusted was telling you it's not real, it's not happening, and don't worry, it's not you, so it's not your problem. And you never thought about the fact of, wait a minute, what's going to happen when it is my problem? We would have set a precedent by then that this is the norm, and there'll be no turning back. And that's the major problem that we are here, the hump that we're in right now with mental health, the hump that we have set this precedent that this should be, because it was permitted. And now we can't seem to get over that hump with a logic that will allow the perpetuation of that same old ideology, that brokenness, to be perpetuated. And they're like, well, we want to keep going, but we got to carry this brokenness with us so we can control things, so that the generational wealth will only be exclusive instead of inclusive, meaning it'll exclude certain people and include only a limited amount of people, because if you have everybody be wealthy, healthy, and happy, then it devalues those things. But that's not true. And it's never been true. But that has been the same ideology that has perpetuated this mental breaking point that we're at, and the misunderstandings about signals, to include signaling to the market theories. That's what's perpetuating these too big to fail companies to actually fail. That's what's causing room for more people to open up entrepreneurships that's thriving as well as it is, because a lot of people are like, that was a broken system that failed all of us. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up my own business, and it's going to function better, because we already know what went wrong. So now you have a lot of people who were in those big organizations, maybe the makeup companies, maybe the um, designing industry with the purses and things like that. You're seeing those people come out of the background into the forefront with their own business now, because those business operations are following a broken plan, a broken system that's perpetuating a break in mental health, because those organizations that they're depending on for jobs, livelihood, security, and all that is falling apart. And there's no security in it because there's no loyalty. There's no loyalty from the top down, bottom up, side to side, period. In any kind of way that you can imagine, there's no loyalty and no safety and security in it. And at any given time, everything could just fail. And we're seeing that a lot with the stock market going up and down, and seeing how the tariffs are causing a lot of more middleman to be obsolete. They're no longer necessary because you can go directly to the people who are manufacturing these products and buy directly from them. For example, when we had the pandemic and everyone was quarantined, we saw a lot of times that people were buying directly from the manufacturer. Like I was getting my aquarium fish directly from the manufacturers overseas, and they were shipping the fish directly to me. So I can, the only problem with that sort of thing is that when you're not sure about what you're doing, it's a it's a learning curve where you fail and learn from the failure and then improve, and as you continue to improve, but you need more of the products, and you need it at a reasonable price. And that's why a lot of people continue to conduct business directly with those overseas companies, because it was more affordable for startup businesses, startup organizations, and it made the too big to fail companies a little weaker. But it wasn't their focus. It wasn't their objective. It was the objective to build their own brand, build their own wealth, and use the little bit of money that they have in order to accomplish these goals so that they can improve their mental health. I know a lot of people are like, well, there's no correlation between, there's no link between um, my mental health and how well I do in business. There's no direct link between my mental health and how I'm performing in school. There's no direct link between my mental health and if I'm promoted on my job or not. There's no positive correlation between my manager saying negative things about my expertise and making it seem as though I'm not the professional that I am, and then it impacting my job opportunities elsewhere when I'm not happy or comfortable at the organization that I'm at. There's no correlation to say that that's going to mess with my mental health or cause me a mental health crisis or break where I'm not going to be cognitive of knowing that what to do, when to do, and how to go and get help. There's no correlation. There's studies that say those, all of those things. There's a positive, strong correlation to, yes, that's causing a mental health problem. But is that the studies that's going out and saying, they're saying it in a roundabout way? They're saying that when you have these problems, it's causing this Machiavellianism in the workplace. It's causing, and what is that? That's violence. That's poor performance. That's what else is it? That's you know, health problems. So a lot of people are getting sick, like literally in their body becoming ill. And it's not just mental, it's a physical illness. Yep, it's a whole lot of stuff that's going on mentally as well, because we got to think about our brain. What is this doing for my brain? Well, when you were in school and you saw how the things that you were learning were causing out these things called brain synapses. It's little shock waves that happen in your brain, and it causes these brain wrinkles. Well, what's happening when you experience these traumatic experiences, and that's all the time, all the time, all the time, like rapid fire, like one thing after the other? What's happening to your brain then? What's happening to your mental health then? There is a positive and strong correlation that says, this is a problem, but we like to say that we don't understand something because we can't physically put our hands on it, or because the studies did not directly state exactly these words, but they stated it in other words like violence in the workplace, a hypervigilance in the workplace or in schools even. So that's why I use schools and the workplace, because those are the most prominent places where everybody is. So these studies are being conducted in the schools and in the organizations that is showing, yes, this is a problem and it's here. But a lot of people are saying, well, we can work around it. The problem is you cannot work around it. The problem is being noted that we have reached a pinnacle, a hump, where it's a catalyst where we have to address it, or we can't advance beyond it. And you'll have a bunch of mom and pop shops all over again, because that's pretty much where we started from, right? In America, we started with a bunch of mom and pop shops before we had big business to come in and take over. And it's like, wait a minute, why is all of this happening? How can we forecast what's going to happen? How can we forecast the best moves to take from here? How can we know what to do? It's a little saying that says, if you don't know history, you'll be doomed to repeat history. And that's how you get these people who know what's going to happen and can predict what's going to happen because they know history. Sorry, it's just, it's like a lot of people were saying, a lot of the PhDs that I was working with when I was going for my PhD, they said, well, people aren't going to read. They don't read already, and they're not going to read any of these books in order to know these things. And the more and more we see, we are seeing, a lot of people don't read, but they are watching these podcasts. They are sharing and liking, and then they go out and regurgitate and they add their little spin on these very podcasts, these very social media memes or post or whatever. And I do go on social media and I'll say a little something, and I'll go on somebody else's social media video or something, and I'll make a comment and I'll say something, and it's getting out there. And a lot of people are more aware than what academia and the industrial workforce actually understand, and they don't know how to get the right signals. They're like, well, we're doing these qualitative researches, these quantitative researches, and we're not really seeing what's happening. We can't control it because phenomena happens to a point where you cannot control it. You can only observe it, and you can try to understand what direction you're going in and what direction the phenomenon is taking. It has a life of its own. And if you're not aware of what life is taking on, what is personifying, what does that mean? When something we say is not physical begins to take shape in life, and it has a physical act like a movement, then it's taking on a whole personal type of real person. Is now it's like a body, and it's moving. And what direction is it going in? How is it going? And it's like, what's driving it? What's pushing it? What's motivating it? What's inspiring it? Mental health. People don't want to be in a space where they can't enjoy things the way they used to because something's going on mentally. Because they're trying to do things to get along, but there's this right way to do things. Why are those two things different? Why is it that there's a difference between doing things to get along and doing things the right way? And that space in between there, that's where that mental break comes in. The mental break of, well, this is how I want to do things, but this is the right way to do it. This is the way everybody wants me to do things, but this is the right way to do things. This right here would be the FAO. No, what is it? The FAFO. And this right here would be, well, I didn't really want to test the water, but I did. and I found out. That's where we are, and that's why we're having so many problems that and these various titles of fool around and find out, FAFO, where we're seeing like, man, that's really showing me bold into my face that my actions have a direct connection with my mental health well-being. And if I'm doing things just to get along or just because someone said it, as opposed to doing the right thing and then questioning, well, what is the right thing? Well, now you have an FAFO situation and a mental health break and cognitive dissonance that's leading you to continue to follow a path of this teeter totter that's costing you mental health breaks randomly and uncontrollably. And you're thinking, I think I need to medicate, and or no, because the medication is not going to stop you from making these decisions. I'm not saying that some people don't need to be medicated, but I'm saying that's not the panacea. It's not a cure-all to say, oh, well, I'll just pop some medicine, because the medicine is not going to make you decide to do the right thing for your mental health and well-being. And for goodness sake, as opposed to just do what people tell you to do for the sake of getting along, for the sake of fitting in, for the sake of FAFO, because, well, it's funny, it's entertaining. Okay, the cost of it is your mental health. That's the cost. And it's like, is it worth it? And a lot of times people are coming to understand it's not worth it, because you're not enjoying yourself the way you should or would or thought you would or expected to. And then your life is in jeopardy. Yeah, you made the company a whole lot of money. Kudos to you. But now you're the fall guy. You're the fall guy for the things that you did. And even though you're not the one who really did it, you're the face of it. You're the forefront of the organization that supported your ideologies and your thought processes and your suggestions. And now, even though you're getting all these accolades for being the one who saved the organization, being the one who said, oh, well, this is a too big to fail company. This is about life insurance. Everybody needs it. This is about sanitary napkins and tissues. Everybody needs it. This is about auto insurance, home insurance. This is about things that people need. So they're going to patronize it. Yeah, but now your life is on the line, not just your mental health, because a lot of people are dealing with this problem. And at any given time, because you're toying with their mental health and acting like you don't understand that, because you're saying, well, there's no link to that. There's no way I can know that. How can I know that? You know it, and you do know it because there are studies that support that. It's not happening as random as people would like to try to suggest that it is. It's not random at all. How about that? And we're seeing it where now a lot of people, like investors and things like that, they're going to social media. They're turning to social media to see, what are the people saying? Before social media, people couldn't see that. So they were unaware what was really happening unless you had their email address, unless you were able to tap in on one of those board of trustee meetings and get the email addresses and email them and go into the business and boycott the business outside the business and say, hey, we don't like this. Hey, ho, you got to go. That sort of thing. There's a different way with the evolution that we're seeing with the digital world as it continues to evolve and grow and intertwine with our reality. There's a different way. So we can no longer say, well, I'm just an investor. Oh, I'm just a stockholder. So I didn't know that that would happen. I didn't know that the people were not happy or disgruntled, or that my actions were directly impacting their mental health and cause their mental health break. I can't, I can no longer make that claim, because now there's social media and people are saying We're mentally upset and physically, emotionally angry, and we want to show you that we don't like what you're doing as a too big to fail organization. We don't like what you're doing with our loyalty. We don't like what you're doing when we finally get the ability to stand on our feet and say, yeah, I'll risk investing monetarily in your stocks so at the chance to advance so that I can have some of that wealth before I'm too old to do anything at all. They're saying, I don't appreciate what you did. I'm not happy with it. And how are they saying that? Well, it's very unfortunate how they're saying it because it's led to a lot of lives being ended short of what their expectations were. A lot of people say, well, I see these things happening in schools where the students are fed up with what's going on with these unresolved problems in the school, and they're coming to the school causing fatal problems. But how can they be so fed up at such a young age? There's a saying, and it says, it helps people to understand that you feed a particular way. Some people say it's a spirit. So, but the objective is you're feeding a particular way. You're feeding what you want to do, what everybody wants to do, and you're feeding the right way. Well, these two things are separate and they have strong consequences. So if you're constantly feeding what people want or what you think as opposed to what's right, the level of fed up is going to have a stronger hold on impressionable minds. And you'll see it more readily in these schools and in these organizations where impressionable minds gather and are collected. So that's why you're seeing it more so in the schools than you do in business organizations, because those are impressionable minds and we have fed too often only what somebody wants to do, and it's a negative thing, and it's this idea that we don't have to do the right thing, but you're born understanding the difference. We're all born with this discernment that helps us to understand this is not a good idea. I don't know if I'm right or wrong, but it doesn't feel right. And that's why a lot of people go along with what somebody else says or does or whatever, as opposed to doing the right thing. And a lot of times it's because they trust the people that look like them. They trust the people that they come to love. They trust the people that they come to believe are more intelligent than they are. The person that they feel will guide them properly. It's like you have an obligation and you're not fulfilling that end, and it's like you're not giving enough concern to the fact that it's having these mental problems until it's in your face and unavoidable and too late and fatal. And we're tired of seeing that that's the only time that we're going to address it. We're tired of waiting and for people to say, well, this is a good time to address this because, yeah, we've lost X number of people. So now that was the target number to say, yeah, we're going to start fixing this now. Like, what? What do you mean we're going to start fixing it now? You mean to tell me that there was a particular number of victims that you were waiting for in order to say, hey, whoa, let's stop this. Let's go in a better direction. Instead of doing what we want to do, let's do the right thing. And then that's really going to really disturb some people. Hey, Tony, I've been so busy, brother. I appreciate you coming. I appreciate you coming too. We're not seeing that the reason why the people are not making that correlation is because it's going to affect their money. It's going to affect the loyalty. But the studies show, the studies that people don't talk about anymore, the studies show that that's where that loyalty came from. Because you tell the truth. because you do the right thing. So they support your organization even if they don't really like you, or even if they're splitting their loyalty between you because they're like, well, you've been here to help and you've caused job creation and stability, but we really don't like your products as much as we like this other one. So we're going to purchase that more, but we're going to kick you a little bit of money to help you sustain your ability. A lot of people don't understand that kind of mental support. Oh, we miss you too, Tony. We're gonna do better. We're gonna do better. But um, when we are not making that correlation to show that that's a product of doing what's right, doing the right thing, and we're only saying, well, nah, that's not really it. You just cut yourself off at the knees where you can't produce as much money as you would if you'd have stuck with the true loyalty, the true thing, because studies have shown that even when those organizations who were like, oh, we don't really like what you're giving, and this other person is selling it for a cheaper price, or they have better products, but we're going to patronize you to sustain your organization. What they came to see is those actions, that kind of loyalty was more sustaining than anything else. Anything, anything, smiling in people's face, marketing to them differently, purchasing those mom and pop shops and not their business model. I'm just gonna let that sink in, because a lot of times when them too big to fail organizations would smother those mom and pop shops and take them, they weren't following their business plan to have that kind of loyalty generated between the consumer and the manufacturer, and it was still failing. And that's why it fed the need for them to go out and absorb another mom and pop shop and another and another and another. Because these mom and pop shops will open up businesses based on the things that the big companies weren't giving. Like we see right now, there's a lot of entrepreneurs popping up out of nowhere, what seems like, but really they coming from the background of organizations that they help to build the credibility that they have, the type of quality that they have. And now those key uh, administrators or workers are starting to come out and have their own business, and they're going to develop a mom and pop shop that's going to do exceptionally well, because that's what happens. It's history, it's a cycle, it's cyclical. And it's like we're acting like we don't understand. And then when that company, once everything balances out and everybody is like, okay, the market is starting to balance out now. Let's see what mom and pop shops popped up while we were down as a big organization. Let's see what came up. And they're just going to swallow up the mom and pop shop by selling them the idea that, oh, we can buy your organization and you can go and live a happy life, retire, be more wealthy than what the wealth you're generating now is giving you. And we have the networking ability so that we will always be able to advance financially more than what you would as a mom and pop shop. Nowadays, that's no longer true, because it's a digital age that's intertwining with our little mom and pop shop ideas. And our little endeavors are being more prosperous now than ever. And really, the only thing they need is somebody with a business organizational mindset that can help them push towards that kind of big business level, generating generational wealth type of money. Because now people are starting to reconsider supporting the quote unquote too big to fail companies and perpetuating that kind of ideology, because it's caused so many lives to be lost, because the mental breaks that people have had randomly, uncontrollably, to no end. And no one can predict how deep that impact goes. And they can't predict when it'll stop. because they're not really seeing the financial benefit in supporting. That's the end. That's the end of those brokenness, the end of that sort of business model where it's perpetuating mental breaks and perpetuating sicknesses in people who are otherwise completely healthy. You don't work in a manufacturer's shop where there's fumes, but you still getting sick. You don't work in an organization where you have to eat fast food because sometimes they'll have this buffet thing and you're eating healthy, but you're getting sick. It's the stress, and they were aware of it a long time ago. Rewatch some of the old episodes that I did where I showed you the studies that support that was well understood, but nothing was done. Nothing was done on your behalf for it, and that's why we have this mental health crisis. They're like, what do you mean you knew? What do you mean you didn't do anything about it? What do you mean you left me hanging while all the while smiling at me and telling me, well, we're going to have this pension for you if you make it to this certain level, of years and number of years. Then they fire you before you can ever get there, just before you can get there. And then they say, well, we don't know why you snapped. We don't know why you're having mental health breaks. We don't know why you're suddenly ill and more ill than what you were with the original stress that you had. Yeah, they do. And it's not a surprise. And it's more a matter of a lot of people not understanding that you yourself are setting this as the norm, and it's going to include you. When we get that understood, then people will do right more than they do to get along. Because now we're seeing it more often. Well, you lost your federal job. You lost your pension. You lost your investment. You lost your 401k. You lost all of this stuff because you were doing to get along as opposed to doing the right thing. Now everybody's hollering, let's do the right thing. Let's do the right thing, for goodness sake. For goodness sake, how about for mental health sake? We got to be more aware of why we're doing the right thing, because if we don't, we're going to end up right back in the same place of doing things just to get along instead of doing the right thing for goodness sake. And there's many studies out here, and I've showed quite a few, and even in this episode I've showed little flashes, and you're going to have to pause so you can go back and read the whole thing, and you'll understand better why I'm saying these are the studies that support this phenomenon, which cannot be controlled. It is a phenomenon. It is an act that is happening that no one can control with little study groups or money or what. It can't be controlled. It can be observed and learned from. That is what a phenomenon does. It teaches. And if you watch and you understand it, then you can learn and advance from it, as opposed to what we were doing with studies, where we would conduct a study and we would do the statistics and take out any abnormalities that we're not looking for, or because it was like not exactly in alignment with everything we wanted, and it's going to skew our records and our outcomes. So we're not going to take that information. We're only going to narrow it down to yay so much so it'll have the exact information that we want. That's the way the studies were going, and that's perpetuated the brokenness. That's led to the mental health breaks where we are now, as opposed to conducting the studies, giving the real numbers, the real outcomes, the real reality of what's actually happening and why it's happening, so we can advance, so we can use those studies to say, this is how it works. This is how it's going to make us better. This is how it's going to increase wealth. This is how it's going to cause us to be more innovative and creative in the manner in which it's going to sustain us for the next generation. And each generation has its own evolution of products, and advancements, and this is how we can take advantage of that in order to sustain our continued growth and development. This is what we do. We stopped doing that sort of study a long time ago, and we started perpetuating the idea of this is what I want to do. I know what the right thing is, but this is what I want to do. This is what we're going to do because I have the controlling investment. I'm the authoritarian. I'm the lead on this project. Whatever your idea of this is why we're going to do the wrong thing, that's been broken, and it's been a repeated broken record for so long that we don't even know that there's a good or right way to do things anymore until all of this fails us and we have to look at something else. But by the time then, it's like we so broken and we don't know what to do, and it's like we gotta recreate the wheel. And then somebody comes along and say, no, scratch that. We're not recreating the wheel. We're not doing that because we already have this understanding. Then you're like, what? What do you mean? You already know? You already understand? Why did you take so long to say something? Well, I wanted to see what would happen. Well, and there you go with the wells all the time. And there you go with the, well, we needed to test and see what would happen. We needed to, all of these things, just like we're seeing with these political constituents that's like waiting for their representatives to say something and do something. And it's like, why haven't they done that yet? Why haven't, and then it's causing a mental health break because everybody is like, you see this, we trusted you, we thought that you would do what you said you would do and you didn't. And now we feel like we got to act on our own in order to control the having the little bit of mental health that we have. And that's where you see a whole lot of problems happening randomly, unpredictably, and it's causing a lot of lives to be lost, or the directions of those people's lives to take such a drastic turn for the worse that was avoidable. Whether the life was lost or whether the life was now incarcerated because they had a mental health break that they couldn't control because the situations were so dire and they just did whatever they thought they could. It's like a person who is trying to control their pain. And the only way that they can control their pain is to cause harm in another way. A lot of psychologists are going to get that. A lot of people who are having that problem are going to understand that. And that's where we are right now. A lot of people are trying to control their pain by inflicting pain in another way. And that's going to cause more problems than it solves. Avoidable problems. But we can fix it. We just have to do the right thing, for goodness sake. And stop waiting for, oh, well, when is this person going to say something? When is that person going to do something? You better hurry up before somebody feels compelled to control their pain by inflicting pain in another way. That's been my time for today. That's mental health signaling. We need to be more observant and we need to be more proactive to prevent problems instead of waiting until the problem is overwhelming, because it doesn't have the progression anymore. It's either we do the prevention or it'll be overwhelming. That's where we are, because that's just the beast we fed. That's all I'm saying. But remember, mental health is physical wealth. See you next episode.
Mental health is physical wealth.